Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Court-Martail Podcast. Introducing your host for this evening first. He is the host with the most from the West Coast, the Bay Area Brawler, Skylar Greenberg. And his partner, he has colonized, energized, and revolutionized the podcasting wrestling world today. Your Colonial Champion, Sean McCarty. And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. It is here, Hell in a Cell 2021 review, the Court-Martail Podcast, the only place that you can find a podcast made by Smarks for Smarks for the betterment of Smarkdom everywhere. And there is no more valued opinion than those of two Smarks who have made an establishment out of reviewing these shows for better or for worse. I am your Colonial Champion, Sean McCarty, and with me, as always, the man of the hour, the man with the power, too sweet to be sour. He's the guy who walks onto the beach as an American male and walks off the beach as Ugandan Knuckles. Your friend and mine, Mr. Skylar Greenberg, the Bay Area Brawler. How you doing, my man?
So what Sean is referring to is yesterday I went to the beach and it was
It's summertime.
And it was cold and it was fine. And then it got sunny and I forgot to put sunscreen on and now I'm redder than Brother Love.
Yeah, oh, good reference. Good reference. He's a very tan man.
Well, I'm not just tan in the face. It's the arms, it's the back, it's the chest, it's basically everywhere that wasn't covered by swim trunks. I'm so red that Brother Love would be jealous of me because he could wear me as a suit.
Yeah, yeah, you're so red that Jim Cornette has one locked up in his closet somewhere because he had a bunch of red suits. Red was like one of his favorite colors to wear.
Yep. But I'm still here. I'm ready to go. I'm here to talk about Hell in a Cell.
And Hell in a Cell, the cages are red, the participants are red, the viewership are red. We are ready to go. And we've got 6 matches, but of course, Sky, we can't do it alone. Backed by popular demand, oh, if that's what you can call it, roll the intro.
It's time for Josh Geddon's Notes of the Week. It's time for his Notes of the Week. Oh, yeah.
Coming to you somewhat live from fabulous Emerald Isle Beach, North Carolina, because fuck Myrtle Beach. It's the It's the semen snorting, pun contorting, always cavorting, master of the Uranagi / Uranog / Nog hat trick, the man of the minute, too sour to be sweet, the Heath Springs deviant himself, proper PC grammar notes Joshua. Feel free to cheer or boo or shudder or squirt.
Boo! Boo!
Yes, he's got to be the de facto heel of the bunch of us at this point. That's right, CMP listeners. Josh Geddon is currently on vacation after committing wanton acts of genocide on all things cookie-baking, tree-dwelling, and Josh Geddon censoring. Although I will admit that as I'm typing this, I'm still picking pieces of Keebler elf flesh out of my teeth, and I'm not saying that last part of that sentence.
The Keebler Hells are definitely going to be watching this show with a fine-tooth comb, Josh, again.
That's right. Like I said, he still he hasn't put together the fact that those were the decoys to test him. And now we know. And so now we have actual Keebler elves hard at work to make sure that if it needs to be censored, it will be censored. Good luck, Josh, again. But these ones are a lot less restrictive. But, apologies for not being able to attend the Hell in a Cell 2021 review. But these are my absolutely and unabashedly awful thoughts and opinions on this show. Shall we begin?
I suppose we should.
Well, let's start off with a bang in what I honestly considered the better cell match of the night.
Well, hold on. Before we even talk about the first match, let's talk about the show as a whole. What did you think of the whole show?
You know, I think I'm going to be better saying such at the end of the show once I've remembered all of these things, because my overwhelming thoughts on this show are, That's about it.
I think going into it, I actually was kind of excited because I was at least interested in 5 of the 6 matches that WWE was producing. Like, there was some interesting stuff, at least with 5 of the 6. It's just that there was a theme in the night, and we'll get to it.
Yes, yeah, we'll definitely see a pattern. As this is this show is a classic view of WWE formatting. As evidenced by, we have to have 2 cell match. Oh, and before we even get to this first match, I almost jumped the gun there a second ago, folks. I nearly forgot. Let's recount how many Hell in a Cell matches we had over the course of 4 days. So on Friday Night Smackdown, they give away Roman Reigns versus Rey Mysterio's Hell in a Cell match. For the first ever Hell in a Cell match on Smackdown. Isn't it exciting?
Oh, God.
Then, on Sunday, they had the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view proper, which had Bayley and Bianca Bel-Air, which we'll talk about in a minute, and Drew McIntyre and Bobby Lashley, which we'll also talk about in a minute. And then, on Monday night, we have a fourth Hell in a Cell match, because Bobby Lashley went on to face, oh God, and I'm blanking on who it was now.
Xavier Woods.
Oh, right. Xavier Woods, of all people. No knock on Xavier Woods, but like, why? And it's just...
Okay. Do you want me to explain why, or do you want to wait until we get to the Bobby Lashley-Drew McIntyre match?
I'd rather get to the context after that match as to why that's important, especially because now we know what pay-per-view's coming up. Hooray. And...
Your excitement is so jubilant.
It's palpable. You can cut it with a knife. And speaking of wanting to use weapons on other people, we lead off the show with a Hell in a Cell match, which I kind of anticipated because you want to space them out if you're going to have 2 in one night, which I wouldn't do, but if you're going to have 2 in one night, better to space them out. It is Bayley versus SmackDown Women's Champion Bianca Belair in what I thought was actually quite a good matchup.
It was quite a good matchup, but it's also one of those matches that you honestly didn't really need to sell. You could just made it a street fight.
No, absolutely. I mean, it was one, but knowing how good Bayley is, which she really moxed her guns this night, she was tremendous. Everything about what she and Bel-Air, and they have a good chemistry, do these two. I would like to have seen this match, if this Hell in a Cell match were at the end of a feud between these two, I'd have been much happier with it.
Well, this may be the end of the feud, but either way, I have to wholeheartedly agree. I thought there were a couple of slip-ups. And we'll get to the slip-ups in a second.
Yep.
But Bianca Belair is really shining as a worker, and she's really getting better. But it's all thanks to a lady like Bayley with so much experience who was clearly leading this match to where it needed to go.
Made her look great in this. And Bayley's one of the few people who is actually, I have to give her credit, who has mastered working in the Thunderdome. She knows the exact right balance of not pandering to a crowd, but also like knowing, like bashing Michael Cole, who's right there, and acknowledging that they're in a, they're not surrounded by fans, but also not making it feel awkward or like they're just presenting themselves to the camera. You know what I'm saying? She really knows how to work that arena and still make it look like all of her stuff lays in, and that she means what she does, and that she's made it work for her.
And she's one of the very few who actively acknowledges the commentators, because they are the only other people there besides the wrestlers. And that's how she gets heat, is that she mocks the commentary team, specifically Michael Cole. Which makes us a babyface in her eyes.
Yeah, exactly. I was just about to say, it's definitely babyfaces her, but the point is still the same. I mean, Bayley is just great at what she does, and Bianca, as a result, looked very good throughout this match. But what I loved about this guy is it reminded me in parts, I mean, it's still definitely quintessentially WWE, though their matchup, but there were flashes of what I liked in Lawler and Idol in this match, as far as the really taking their time, starting this matchup slow. Even though they got weapons in the ring, they didn't really use them at all until the timing was right, and they were able to move forward with that, and there was a lot of wrestling involved. The minimal use of the cage throughout, and only using that when it was necessary, like that sunset flip, which was fantastic.
Exactly. Like, these two women worked a style in the cage that made use of the cage, but not to an over extreme point, which is nice. Because the focus just between two in a match that just happened to be in a cage.
Yeah, and of all the matches on this show, I thought that this one was probably paced the best for the time that they were given. And
Right, because moves were allowed to be registered. We had a minute or two between a sequence so we could breathe and then get ready for the next spots.
And Bianca just, when they get to the arm spot where she's working the arm is Bayley. And she's working the arm a little bit, and Bianca was selling it, but I noticed it kind of sucked that Kevin Owens sold the wrist so much better later because it made Bianca's look lesser in comparison.
Well, there's a reason for that, and we'll get to that match later when we talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we've heard rumors, and there's definitely a lot of scuttlebutt around the water cooler about that match, but we'll get to that later. But this match it didn't feel like the spot fest that Hell in a Cell can often tend to be.
Right, like there were a couple of early showcases of athleticism from Bianca. Like when they were on the top rope and Bayley took a swing at her, Bianca does a flip to dodge the punch and then does a move where she jumps back on the ropes. Unfortunately, she slipped and didn't quite mount it.
But still, that was one of the funniest moments. Folks, if you haven't seen the Hell in a Cell live stream reaction video, it's definitely worth taking a look, because Skylar and I watched the whole thing, and you can watch all. But at that moment, I remember you and I getting really excited, and then both simultaneously going, "Oh!"
Yeah, like, "Oh!"
You were doing so well, but honestly, it didn't matter because they still recovered well enough to where it was fine. I had no issue with that whatsoever. And really, that's what is great about when the work is good and the pacing is good, is that they can slip up like that and it doesn't feel like a catastrophe. You're like, all right, it's fine. I can accept that as just, not all fights aren't usually this clean and precise. So having things be a little rough every now and then isn't a bad thing when the people doing it are okay. If you recall that match at WrestleMania 25 with Taker and Michaels.
As long as you're over enough, you can get away with shit.
Yes.
And here's something else too, psychology, because specifically Bayley, is a master of psychology.
Yep.
And thinking, how is a wrestler going to act and remove? Like for example, she brought out the kendo sticks, taped up and prepared. Unlike last year when she tried to set that spot up and it didn't work.
Now, what did you think about that spot? I'm glad you brought that up. What did you think about it?
First off, I'm glad that they acknowledged that it failed last year, so now they pre-prepared it, so that way Bayley wouldn't have to struggle with the duct tape and then later on just say, screw it, I'm not going to do that spot.
Right.
Unfortunately, the spot itself was not very cool.
No. No. And it kind of just reinforced the idea of maybe we just shouldn't have done this in the first place. Maybe we just should have left it. I mean, props to them for still trying to acknowledge when something bad happens. Remember the Royal Rumble, I think it was 2018, when they announced Titus O'Neil, and then he backed up from the ring for a minute and slowly walked up and got into the ring after sliding in Saudi Arabia.
Oh yes, and then they turned that into one of the greatest memes and merchandise of all time.
Yeah, so it's but in any event, here's my thing, right? I'm still probably unjustly so, because this is WWE and I should know what I'm getting at this point. I still have that old school mentality of why the hell would there be two kendo sticks taped together underneath a ring in just a regular fighting situation? I know it's WWE and this is what they do and it's all theatrics and blah blah blah. That was
the reference was that Bayley pre-prepared it, she put it underneath the ring.
Right. I understood where they were going with that, but there's always going to be that part of me that has that complaint. But I also just think the spot wasn't that good. It just wasn't that it didn't look like it damaged Bayley. I mean, it turning on Bayley made sense. I was cool with that. But the spot itself I thought was kind of lame, especially because Bayley landed on the duct tape, the least impactful part of that setup. So it didn't even look like it really hurt that much.
I mean, yeah, you're right. And honestly, it was a lame spot. Not just in how it was hit, but also the way it looks.
Yeah.
It doesn't look painful.
Yeah, it was probably better it didn't happen in the Bayley and Sasha match, because I think that would have just been worse.
No. Well, what we got was worse with Bayley not even able to duct tape the thing and then giving up. At least Bayley, she makes sense with her shit. Like, she literally tried and couldn't do it, and then she said, "Screw it," rather than try to save the spot.
Yeah, so that was smart on Bayley's behalf. And God, and people said that Bayley was a bad champion. I don't know, man. I feel like Bayley is like the most valuable woman on that roster. And I group Charlotte and Rhea Ripley into that conversation.
Well, as I've always referenced, with Bayley and the Horsewomen, and also Rhea Ripley, and I would guess Bianca Bel-Air and a couple others, she's not the flashy one of that group.
No.
She's the consistent one.
She's the worker.
So she's the worker. And I know this comparison has been made on a certain other podcast, but we'll go ahead and bring it here. She reminds me a lot of Arn Anderson and that enforcer role, but she has the working ability in the ring and in the mind. She's not the flashiest. She's not the Ric Flair of the group. We know who the Ric Flair is, obviously.
Yeah, I wonder.
But Bayley is the one who is, when they're in the ring, she's the ring general. She's the one who leads the match.
So who would be the other two in that situation? So you're saying that, like, who would Becky be? Tully? Or would Sasha be? Sasha would have to be Tully. But
Sasha would have to be Tully.
But that would make Becky Lynch Barry Windham, which is very confusing. In fact, I would more relate Bayley to Barry Windham, just because Barry Windham was so underrated as a worker. He was incredibly good as a worker, and even won the World Heavyweight Championship, and people don't even remember that now. But his work was always consistent. He always made everybody who worked with them look good, no matter what situation he is, no matter what role he was in. Barry Windham, we need to do like an actual investigative episode on Barry Windham, because I think we would be very, very impressed with our results. And from what I've seen of Barry, as far as that consistency is concerned, you can make the case that Barry and Bayley are similar.
Well, let's watch a Barry Windham match next week.
We will. We will. We definitely will. I love that idea. Well, speaking of the other the horsemen, which is death, war, and famine, and
hold on. Before we get to Joshua's, did you like the finish?
I love how you knew exactly where I was going with that.
Well, what else? But before we talk about Joshua's notes, did you like the finish?
Okay, well, I did. I thought that this KOD on the ladder. My thing is this. I don't really need to, in a Hell in a Cell match, I really don't need to see the ladder. I really don't even need to see kendo sticks. I'd rather see, even with the females, I know it's a different time, and so, but like, I'd still like to see just a wee bit of juice. Just it's a Hell in a Cell. It's just old school me. And I remember how badass it was when Lita got juice. I'm just saying. I mean, listen, I'm not asking these women to cut themselves, right? I don't want this to be misconstrued. Otherwise, the Keebler Elves are going to be coming after me, and I can't have that. But I don't mind it because it is WWE, and this is what they do with it. It was a small ladder, and it looked brutal, and it ended the match. It was the end of the match. There was no kickouts. There was no 64 finishers. It was just KOD. Done. And this was probably the only finish on this show I actually was like, okay, cool with it, liked it.
And as I said in the live stream, no Bayley to Bayley attempts. They never tried to do Bayley's finisher.
Yeah, and I think that's totally fine. Sometimes it's nice to just have one finisher from one person, and that's that.
Sometimes it's all a matter of who hits it first.
Yep, I thought that, honestly, it's a shame that they have to have cell matches, multiple cell matches on these nights, because this match would have been great without the cell. If they had just, I think that this would have actually been fine. I would have liked to have seen just a singles match between these two to start this, because this is a feud, which I know they're just going to breeze by, but I would really rather see a long extended feud with this, but not started in Hell in a Cell.
Well, they wrestled at Backlash, and they feuded last year, if you remember. They feuded last year on Bianca's way to the championship. So it's not that these two haven't wrestled each other before. They have.
It feels like this would have been better with fresher. Like I hate to say this, but like, even though they feuded before, this is just an overall condemnation on WWE's booking, because it felt like it had no meaning then. So this still feels like it's the start of a feud like they never had one before, which is really not good if that's how you're booking your shows to be unmemorable.
Well, I think it was different earlier on last year because last year it started in December, went to January at the Rumble. I think that was more because that was on the way to Bianca's ascent. And this is Bianca at the ascent now against Bayley now as an established star. But I get what you mean. It would have been better if the first feud had been more memorable, so it would have made this one more natural.
Yeah, no, exactly. And then you could tell a more story because they, to my knowledge, have they referenced any of the prior stuff to them feuding in this leading up to?
I don't think they ever mentioned that Bianca eliminated Bayley at the Royal Rumble.
Yeah,
Like,
so
and that was really what started their feud. So it's a bit disappointing.
yeah, it's just if they have these types of capabilities and they have this history, they must know that their history sucks recently because they never want to show it. And that's kind of the overall point I'm trying to make here is that these two, this could have been a feud ender if this had been memorable moments of theirs leading up to this. But instead, this feels like these guys just started fighting, and then this is the, this stop and start with so many people with a particularly thin women's division. It just exposes how thin it is and how, even with it that thin, they can't capitalize on the ones they do have.
Exactly. At least on the bright side, it wasn't a triple threat with Sasha Banks involved.
That's right. And props to these two women. These two women made a very enjoyable match. I'm not saying they didn't. I liked it. I thought that this match was quite good. Bayley, keep doing what you're doing forever. Because you are slowly growing on me as one of my favorite wrestlers, period, in pro wrestling right now.
She's arguably one of the best women's wrestlers in the roster and arguably one of the best in the world. And not because she's flashy, but because she's so damn consistent.
Well, speaking of consistent, as far as the consistency of black amorphous goo, would you like to hear what Josh again has to say about this opening matchup?
Yes, I do.
All right. Here we go. Bianca Bel-Air versus Bayley. Fuck. Right off the goddamn bat, we have a dumb as fuck red cage inside the equally as fuck Thunderdome. I didn't even acknowledge that prior to, this is me talking now, I didn't even acknowledge that prior to because I kind of just numbed myself to both of those concepts, knowing that that's what we were going to get.
But every once in a while, WWE production will do something so stupid, like when Bianca was doing her entrance, and then there were random kissing emoji things on the ring from the lights.
That was terrible. I mean, that was half of it was good, half of it was not, because later on when they did it for, was it Bobby or Drew? I think it was Drew.
Or Charlotte.
It was. Of course it was. Of course it was.
It was Charlotte, but we'll get there later.
Right. Okay. Thank God crowds are coming back soon. I can't take this shit anymore. I graduated fucking college. I don't feel like watching or attending any more Zoom meetings and seminars. Yeah, hard to blame them on that.
Agreed.
At least they did the video package before the entrances. Yes, I was appreciative of that. But as I'm typing this, Peacock crashed and booted me back to the PS4 menu. And actually, this is a good thing to mention. Peacock was having issues on this night. Because there was a pre-show they missed 25 minutes of until we finally figured out what was going on and said that the show was over. And that was on a live stream that y'all didn't even get to see. And then
I think that was us not figuring out what the time was.
Well, I would much rather blame Peacock, and Josh again's got problems with Peacock, so we've got a majority vote here that it's probably Peacock's fault. What do you think? Let us know in the comments below.
Let us know how the cock is doing.
That's right. Holy shit, not even joking. Peacock has permanently glitched my stream of Hell in a Cell 2021 on my PS4 to where the audio is either dead silent or loud beeping and buzzing noises. So I have to switch my laptop to start the first match. What exactly was so appealing about P-Brain Cock to the dumb motherfuckers in Stamford, Connecticut? I guess Vince McBoomer hates Sony or something. Fucking hell. I like how the match began with Bel-Air in control, leading to Bayley immediately going for a weapon. Since Bel-Air has already beaten Bayley at Backlash, this makes sense and shows that Bayley is taking no chances. And we didn't see too much use of the chair when Bayley got it, which allows for it to be brought in later. Rare to see even a semblance of logic and build-up in WWE, so it stands out. Could not agree more.
Again, most of that goes to Bayley and the psychologist.
Yep, absolutely. Bianca does a top rope backflip to dodge a punch instead of just blocking it. Weird and unnecessary. Oh no, the constant flips in modern wrestling have leaked into basic dodging and blocking. Where have you been? Speaking, Josh again must not watch AEW.
Remember, Josh again doesn't watch the shows as much, so he's not as numb to it as you and I are.
Well, he must be desensitized, baby. In the same way that that I will never be desensitized to AEW's brand of this. And I hate to keep bringing them up, but it's the truth.
It's the whole truth. It's the real truth.
That's right.
It's the R-truth.
Love the callback to Bayley's kendo stick tape mishap from last year. God bless Pat McAfee, who was on point all night.
Yes, Pat McAfee was on point all night, so good. But you're not on point because you missed the note above.
Yeah, what are you reading these with me? What?
Yes.
Why?
Yes. He said it to both of us.
Okay. All right, folks, we're going to do a read-along here. This match so does not need to be inside the cell. Charlotte and Rhea should have been in the cell due to their history being more expansive, plus their rivalry has more animosity. Bianca...
That's a debate. That's debates.
Well, the thing is, Charlotte and Rhea really did not have that good of... I don't think that their feud deserved to be in a cell either, to tell you the truth. Not to jumpstart right after their first match since WrestleMania. I think that would have been too much too fast, personally.
Right, like, talk about a feud that hasn't even started yet.
Yeah, more stop and start. Michael Cole called the steel chair steps twice now. Retire. Bianca bumps like crazy in Bayley stuff, and I'm all for it. And then, of course, damn, that KOD to the ladder was a brutal finish. Decent match and opener, but I felt that, again, the cell wasn't needed. Plus, I feel Bianca's selling of her injured arm could have been better. However, good way to start the show despite Peacock being a worthless piece of shit. Well, here's one thing I want to mention as well before we move on with this. I don't disagree that the cell wasn't needed. I would have much preferred the only match to be in a cell was Drew and Bobby. Just saying. But WWE can't help themselves but have multiple on the night, and now it's like a cancer. It's spreading to the show before and the show after. Soon we're gonna have Hell in a Cell matches on every show.
Hell in a Cell, Money in the Bank.
Oh God, please do not give them that idea. It was bad enough for them climbing Titan Towers. Thank God
now
we're not doing
the
that.
Cell to get the Money in the Bank at the top of the cell.
Oh God. So
they have to bring a ladder with them to the top of the cell because there isn't a ladder on the top of the cell.
Christ. Just, dear God, this is where we're headed, folks. This is where we're headed. But we've got a wrestling match to talk about first. It's Cesaro and Seth Rollins. What did you think about this match?
It was good, but it wasn't as good as a WrestleMania match, which, how could you with no fans?
Yeah. No, absolutely. There was no measuring comparison between those two.
But this match, it had a hot start, but it felt like they couldn't keep up the tempo of the hot start, and it kind of lulled itself into what was a weird finish.
Well, I don't mind them slowing down, but I felt that the hot start, even though these two definitely had the story going into it that would be conducive to a hot start, I thought that the tempo was thrown as a result. And when they brought it back down the first time, it just felt like it fell flat. And then it never really I never really got the recapturing of it. Probably because the Kevin Dunn cheers just don't do it for me. Never did and never will. But I loved how these two have tremendous chemistry, and it almost didn't even matter that, like, this match was always going to be just a step below what their match at WrestleMania was. Especially with what they did with the finish, but God, you can tell these two have wrestled each other a lot.
Exactly. Like, this is the type of matchup where if you have the experience and you just have the styles that work well with each other, you can make magic, and it doesn't matter the circumstances.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And these two obviously put in the work to make this quite an entertaining matchup. And I thought the finish was weird. It was just out of nowhere.
Basically, what happened was that it went from the sharpshooter to the crossface, back to the sharpshooter, and then Rollins was able to get to the ropes, and then it went through a tease of Cesaro's finisher, the neutralizer, and Seth Rollins was able to turn it into a roll pin.
Right. I was remembering the sharpshooter part being not as included with the finish, because it was just. I guess you would go back far enough if you really wanted to get that whole sequence in effect, because this is a faster pace. So that would be. I loved that sharpshooter and then the counter back into the sharpshooter. That was brilliant. I thought that was great.
That was very smooth, and thank God Cesaro does the sharpshooter better than Natalya.
Yeah, but even his wasn't. God, I'm so used to watching just Brett do it perfectly.
Well, no one is as good as the original.
I know, but it's like every time I see it, I'm like, oh, that could just be just a little bit better. But it looks good.
Sad that Cesaro's sharpshooter is better than Natalya's, and he's not even blood.
Yeah, no, I don't know what's going on with Natalya. Every time I see her, for as much as like everyone claims that her work is sharp, it really isn't. It might have been at first, but it really isn't. I'm not. You kind of see why Natalya is where Natalya is.
Yeah, which is no offense to Natalya.
No, it's not a knock.
She's a good hand in the women's division. She's just not.
That's as far as it goes, which is fine. You know, you gotta have people like that, and it's no knock to Natalya. But anyway, getting back to the sharpshooter at the finish, and then of course the roll up with the neutralizer tease. I honestly, it was out of nowhere, but Cesaro immediately got up. If you were, how do I put this? Why do the finish later if you were going to have this be this?
I don't know.
Why do this when, or the better question, why do this when you've got that later?
Well, there's two things that's going on. The first is that now they're 1-1, so they're probably going to have a third match.
Which I don't mind.
But do you hear the rumor about SummerSlam and Seth Rollins' potential match there?
I have not heard the scuttlebutt and around the rumor mill at the water cooler, no.
So, supposedly, Edge has chosen Seth Rollins as his SummerSlam opponent, and this was done in order to get Seth Rollins a little bit of momentum to possibly face off against Edge at SummerSlam.
Well, if that is the case, then I do applaud WWE for not making it a flatter than hell finish, and Cesaro just wasn't beat flat. I appreciate that it was at least going to make him look somewhat strong, popping right back up out of that.
But again, Edge was a heel the last time we saw him.
Well,
so are they going to face turn him?
These are tired old tropes, Sky, that neither company adheres to. And we're going to talk about that in the next match, about heels and baby faces and how much that's been thrown out the goddamn window.
Cody Rhodes, I want you to go ahead and fuck off.
Well, he apparently spoke for the majority of pro wrestling management now, because I guess with this handful of exceptions, only a few people give a shit. But the bottom line is, both these guys always kill it when they come out. This, of course, did not have the shimmer that their WrestleMania match did, but I think it still served its purpose. And, you know, it was kind of a meh finish, but it still did what it was intended to do, I think. I can't complain as much about this one.
Well, let's see what Joshua says about it. Maybe he'll complain a bit.
Well, why don't you read this, sir, since I didn't know that you also had the notes that the teacher prepared before the class. So why don't you go ahead and tell everybody what he said?
Fine. Okay. God, I have some wicked indigestion right now. Out of pure curiosity, exactly how long does it take to digest a Keebler Elf? Or 10?
They were decoys, bruh. You ate like a bunch of cellophane, like plastic, that blew up, you know, like, I don't want to say, with the certain dolls that certain people enjoy.
And now your digestive system is going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
I love how this show has more WrestleMania rematches than WrestleMania Backlash. Lashy versus Drew, Sami versus KO, and this match. Again, why bother calling it WrestleMania Backlash? This company is run by idiots.
Agreed.
Rollins versus Cesaro inside Hell in a Cell would have made more sense than Bianca and Bayley being in Hell in a Cell. Just saying.
you know, I don't necessarily disagree with that, but I don't really think I would have put these two in the cell either. Especially if the rumors would have been true, because then they would have had to beat Cesaro flat.
They either would have had to beat Cesaro flat, or Cesaro would beat Seth Rollins flat, and then Rollins would have been cold going into the Edge match.
Yeah, exactly. So
now again, these are plans to change. It could happen. It could not happen. This is just what I hear. Anyways, love the hot start to this match, and it was a good hot start.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, this is something that you and me laughed at during the live stream too. Why did the lights randomly illuminate the dumb as fuck red cell during the heat? Just why?
Yeah, I didn't
Like-
quite understand that either.
Like, there was a spot in the match where Seth Rollins is getting heat on Cesaro after he used, I think it was an eye poke, and they pan up to the cell, and lights start going off, illuminating the cell, and then they pan that down, and they're still illuminating as Seth Rollins is wrestling with Cesaro.
Now, that would have been kind of cool if the cell just randomly came down and they just kept going through the match.
Then it would become a Hell in a Cell, just
Yeah.
like we all wanted.
But that would actually, that's a really interesting concept of a match. Here, you can take this one, WWE, where it's in the middle of a match, or maybe you do an Iron Man match where it's 30 minutes without a cell, 30 minutes with a cell. And you bring this down for the next 30 minutes and you just keep going, doing what you're doing. And now it's no disqualification for those last 30 minutes because it's in Hell in a Cell, and you can see how many pinfalls and submissions they get.
Don't give them any ideas, because they're gonna fucking ruin it.
And then you have to climb up a ladder and get an I Quit Money in the Bank on a pole.
Okay, Vince Russo. Vince Russo over here.
Vince Russo is
Thankfully-
heavy breathing right now with the cause. He wants to know my location.
He wants to know your location so he can tell you to stop stealing his ideas.
Oh, God.
Interesting how Seth has been working the eye of Cesaro. Haven't seen this body part targeted in a while, so it's refreshing. Don't you remember last year when Seth Rollins and Rey Mysterio had a whole match about eyes?
Yeah, Rey Mysterio lost an eye and then suddenly, or I'm sorry, Rey Mysterio lost a ping pong ball and then suddenly got his eye back.
Yeah, so let's not talk about working the eye, please.
WWE, ladies and gentlemen, this is what we've decided to be our passion.
The transition from sharpshooter to the crossface back into the sharpshooter was gorgeous. Cue chef's kiss sound effect point MP3.
Mwah!
Kind of an finish, but keeps Cesaro kind of strong in the feet and gives Seth a win. Great match, even though the WrestleMania match was far superior in my opinion. Not all that much to say since these aren't really much to dissect. Just two great wrestlers putting on a great match. We cannot say that about the next match.
Well, now, if I recall, this was right around the time that you, Sky, had to duck out.
I had to duck out because I had to go get a pizza for dinner that night. And I'm going to say right now, I think I had more fun getting the pizza than watching this match.
Did you go back and watch it?
I did because I had to see how bad it was. And honestly,
It wasn't.
this was not as bad. This was not as bad as it could have been.
It wasn't as... Okay, so here's the deal. First of all, this poor fuck, Jimmy Smith, this UFC guy who... His first pay-per-view match, and he has to call this? Really? This poor dude. Way to integrate the former UFC commentator in. This is what you're getting with WWE. Hypnotism.
Yes, Jimmy Smith has to commentate a match involving a demon-possessed 12-year-old.
But I will say, if we got the commentary team of... Isn't it weird? The commentary team of Jimmy Smith and Pat McAfee, I think I would quite enjoy.
That would be a weird combination, but I'm kind of into it.
But you know what the funniest thing is? It's such a condemnation, again, an indictment on WWE, that the people I want to hear do WWE commentary are a former UFC guy and a football punter. It's nobody associated with pro wrestling that I want to hear commentate pro wrestling.
Because everyone else who does commentary for pro wrestling sounds like fucking Michael Cole. Or
Yeah.
something even worse.
Awful. So this matchup between these two, I was actually kind of thrown that it was a regular matchup for a bit. That just nothing happened. Until Alexa started trying to hypnotize people with a creepy girl stare that got Shayna for all of 2 seconds before Shayna snapped out of it. Tried to get Reginald, the useless waste of space sommelier, who needs to go back to Somalia and go back to the pirate ships because he is useless here. He is totally useless here. And then Nia Jax, who eventually falls victim to Alexa's hypnotism and does the hand thing, and then Nia's totally taken, slaps the piss out of Reginald, took the absolute taste out of his mouth. And then after that, Shayna goes to... There's really not much else to talk about this match. I'm just going right to the finish. Shayna goes for the Kirifuda clutch, which Alexa counters into her... whatever, the not Sister Abigail cover. 1, 2, 3. And she beat the MMA fighter, Shayna freaking Baszler.
Yes, exactly.
Where do... why don't you start?
Shayna Baszler, the MMA fighter, 5'7", 130 pounds. By the way, World Championships, she competed in MMA women's grappling and got silver.
Multi-time women's NXT champion.
Lost to Alexa Bliss, a girl who barely weighs 100 pounds, possessed by the demon herself.
That we know of, which is also half a doll, and she has a swing set, and she charges $600 for a cameo of her doing 16 seconds on a swing set. So, this is just... Listen, for what Alexa Bliss has been lately, a la Fiend being set on fire, a la bleeding black goo from a crown, a la the whole Randy Orton match, where she was in all sorts of provocative positions. This was not a 10 out of 10 on the offensive list. The hypnotist stuff is stupid. I won't say it's not. It totally is. But considering the other things they've done, that was tame.
When you literally have someone being eaten by zombies. This is
two
so
people
low on the offensive meter of WWE, but it's still so stupid.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
If this had happened 10 years ago when wrestling actually was still being taken seriously,
they would have lost 1 million viewers in a week.
They would have lost 1 million viewers in a week. But now we're desensitized to it because they do something stupid every other month.
Yeah, it's kind of sad that our review of WWE as well, it's not the stupidest shit they've done.
It's one of them. It's one of them.
It's one of them. But at least somebody on that wonderful writing team made the point to make it make sense for Nia to be the one hypnotized because Alexa and Nia had history. Somebody was at least thinking through that much.
And you want to know how they ruined it on Raw?
Oh, because it was such in pristine condition to be ruined after this match.
I don't know. Hold on. Before you do anything else, I want you to read Joshua's notes because I want you to say his stuff too before I say what happened on Raw.
Yes. All right. So here comes Josh again. So Jimmy Smith, the UFC guy, his first match to do commentary for is this. That is hilarious. So Alexa's going to just have a regular match in this shitty and stupid outfit. There's no possible way to take this seriously even for a millisecond. True. Now I know what it must have felt like to be the one Keebler off I took my sweet time with. This match is fucking me in the ass and in the eyes. You know what? I have nothing to say about this segment. Talking about it would be giving it the attention it doesn't deserve. Fuck this segment, fuck everyone involved, and fuck this company. So how did they make it better, Sky?
So they had a tag match on freaking Raw with Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross, who debuted a superhero character.
Oh yeah. Oof.
And they had a match between Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler to determine who would get into Money in the Bank. And what happens is that Alexa Bliss used her hypnosis on Reginald to slap Nia Jax.
Of course she did.
So Nikki Cross could roll up Shayna Baszler and win the match for her and Alexa.
What did Shayna do to deserve that? What heat does Shayna have with The Office? That's what I want to know.
I wonder if they're pissed off at Ronda Rousey, and this is how they're doing payback.
Well, WWE is just petty enough for that to potentially be the case. You know, it's definitely. We're not spreading rumors and conspiracy theories, but look into it. it's just how. And all of this, in the meantime, going on at the same time that the Raw Women's Division is so strong that they've got Eva freaking Marie and Doudrop.
Piper Nevin, because I'm refusing to use that stupid name.
Oh, no, her name is Doudrop. Oh, it's got to be Doudrop, pal. Oh, and Eva Marie. Ah, oh, that's good shit.
I don't think Vince talks with that intensity anymore, Sean.
No, you know what? If that's the big critique, I can't disagree with that. You're right. He probably doesn't have that gusto in his voice. But I 100% suspect that Eva Marie's hiring was not Vince McMahon's idea. That falls on one man's shoulders alone.
Johnny Ace.
Johnny Ace. I'm on to you, Laurinaitis. I am on to you.
I need to bring back Eva because it's for the people. People power.
Oh, God. Oh, God. Moving right along. This next match, this is where I really start. And it's at this point that the show started slipping out of control. It's Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn again. And what did you think?
I feel like we have seen this match too many times, and I'm kind of sorry that I was one of those people who chanted "fight forever" because I didn't think they would be literally fighting forever.
I think that the fact that these two have fought each other so many times has desensitized people to them fighting each other now. Because I looked at this match, I'm like, oh, okay. It's just
this match was added because Roman Reigns and Rey Mysterio got taken off. Talk about a downgrade.
And well, here's my thing with Kevin Owens, and of course we have, as we get into discussing the whether, twos, and why fours of this match, we have found out that Kevin Owens is taking some time off, which makes the context of this match make a lot more sense.
Right, which apparently it either is because of the wrist injury, which apparently is a real wrist injury.
Oh, I could tell.
That happened during this match.
Yeah.
So if that is the case, then it totally makes sense why Kevin Owens is taking time off. And it was probably good that they had the finish that they did.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, when he landed, you could tell that Owens was hurt because he popped right back up and he started walking that off like he knew he was fucked.
Right, and he was talking to the referee for a long time to figure out what the hell they were going to do.
Yeah, I suspected, not to say that Owens isn't a master seller, because he is. I think that Owens' selling is quite good. But that would have been a master class if that had not been real. But you could kind of see it. He did his best to cover it up, but you could tell that his wrist was really bothering him the whole match. But give credit to him, because he did a great job given the circumstances.
Right. The other injury that he was selling was a throat injury, and I couldn't imagine the jokes you were making about Kevin Owens having issues breathing. I wonder if it's because of his shape or something.
I didn't go that level. I really didn't. I mean, you heard me, because I believe you were still there for this. Kevin Owens, the thing is with Kevin Owens, I've talked about his physique. I kind of have I'm just desensitized to it. I would always like Kevin Owens to be in better shape. But he did.
Well, actually, I'm going to say something. I kind of agree with you on this time, because he kind of has let himself go a little bit recently. He's a bit bigger now.
There was a time when Owens really toned himself up for WWE, and that was like 2-3 years ago when he was wearing the suits and wrestling AJ Styles. He was in great shape then. He's not as in great a shape now.
I mean, quarantine life, dad bod, that's what happens.
Yeah, it was, but he did a great job. I mean, his selling was really good. This match, I think, of course, suffered because of the wrist injury, and I wasn't as invested in this as I probably could have and should have been. And I love everything Owens and Sami Zayn, but this still kind of felt thrown together.
Even the finish of this match felt thrown together because they didn't tease anything. They just went right to the hula kick, and that was it.
Yeah, and I think maybe because Kevin Owens was really starting to feel the wrist, and maybe that was part of it. You never know how much that factored what the match that we were going to get into what the match was that we actually got. And all the respect to Kevin Owens for going another, what, like 8 or 9 minutes or more?
Yeah. Hold on. How long did this match go?
You're usually the ones with the times.
It went 12 minutes and 40 seconds.
Yeah, and that happened within the first, 2 or 3 minutes, right?
Yeah, it happened within the first 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah, so it was 8 or 9 minutes that he went, or longer, with that wrist injury. So all the credit, I will never knock somebody who fucks their arm up and keeps going. The fact that he rode that out, all the credit in the world to Kevin Owens. But I personally think, because this whole thing felt thrown together, and both of these guys feel like they've kind of lost steam and have kind of been derailed, not even of their own doing, but just from WWE going with different options, that Kevin Owens leaving is kind of one of those "how can I miss you if you don't go away" situations, where I think we're all going to feel better when Owens comes back at this point.
Exactly. It's one of those things where WWE should do this more, cycle talent in and out.
Yeah.
Because then it makes people fresher. And this is good because Kevin Owens was starting to get stale.
Yep.
So have him take some time off, go home and rest and learn the hold, then come back and do something special.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And I think that I think that it's good, really good, because Sami Zayn, his work has always been consistent. He's a great. I still love the Sami Zayn brand of healing that he's been doing of late, and it's just.
But Sami Zayn's also one of those guys that he needs a direction, and he needs a direction away from Kevin Owens, and hopefully he can get that.
Yeah, and I really feel like these two together, in no matter what the capacity, are not doing each other any favors at this point.
At least for a little while. They need some time away from each other to do some other things, and then they can revisit it a little bit later.
Yeah, I mean, there was nothing technically wrong with this match. It just did not have the... I just didn't get as invested in it as I probably would have liked. But, again, that's not a knock on either of the talent. We seldom critique the talent unless it's like Asuka. But we seldom critique the talent in these situations because a lot of the times it's just what they're given.
It's the company booking.
Right.
And the fact that they put these two against each other time after time after time with higher stakes.
Yeah, these two were going to put on a good matchup. But,
But if you don't give them the story, it's not going to come out well.
Exactly.
And these two did not have a story to work with.
Exactly. So what did Josh again have to say about this match?
I want the Keebler elves on standby in case anything happens, all right? Keebler elves, are you ready?
That they cannot and will not respond. We are not going to reveal their location for their safety's sake.
Fortunately for me, the previous match was so fucking stupid that it helped me finally shit my fucking guts out with no problem. Turns out I had an undigested baby Keebler elf skeleton stuck in my colon somehow, and only Demon Alexa could get my ass open wide enough for me to push it out. Go figure. However, now my toilet won't flush.
This is the head of the Keebler elves. I'm talking to you from a hidden bunker. We were going to hide it and edit it out, but we wanted him to feel the shame. You're fucking gross. Oh, shit.
Wonder if Sean has been counting how many matches have started with lockups during this show. And I believe you do keep counts.
I do keep count. Bailey and Bel-Air, they did.
Bailey and Bianca, they did.
Rollins and Cesaro started hot.
Yeah.
Alexa and Shayna had a very bad one, but they did it.
Yeah. And so did Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. They had a lockup.
Yeah.
Actually, no, they did the Canadian. No, they did the Canadian punches.
Yeah, because I blocked that out of my memory. Can these two start a match and not do hockey fight?
No, they have to do the
That's
hockey
all
match.
they ever do. They always start these matchups the exact same way. And I think that was also what's kind of dulled the tone for me on this match, because it's like, oh, so not only is this another Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn's match, but it's also booked and framed like another Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn's match. So it's like, seen
We're
it.
2 for 4. We are 2 for 4, folks.
Yes.
Anyways, Cesaro is selling the eye. Owens is selling the throat. More selling a body part you wouldn't expect. More than just arms and legs. Kevin
agree
is doing
with
a
that.
phenomenal. Yep. Kevin is doing a phenomenal job of selling his throat. Literally after every movement sequence, he doubles over. As a former amateur wrestler, let me tell you that every little move you do can exhaust you quickly, even with lungs full of air. so with a damaged throat, it makes it even harder to gasp and more frequently. Love this element of the match and gives it a different feel than their Mania match. I'd rather a match focus on Kevin's injured throat instead of Logan Paul.
True.
Agreed.
Can't disagree with that.
Hot damn, Kevin showing Bianca how to sell an arm. Also, of course, after me saying sell something other than the arm or leg, Kevin immediately starts selling the arm. When will I learn to keep my damn mouth shut? Well, again, it was just because Kevin Owens got injured and he could only do stuff with one arm, legitimately.
And if you read into that line, what Josh again is admitting is that it's his fault that Kevin Owens hurt his wrist.
So, Josh, again, you're going to go to Montreal, Quebec. You're going to go to Montreal, Quebec. You're going to explain to Kevin Owens why you jinxed him.
Yeah, you go tell his family why his wrist is broken.
Exactly. That one-arm stunner looked better than all of KO's other stunners.
It did, which is kind of also a condemnation on how Kevin Owens performs the stunner.
Then maybe he should only do one-arm stunners.
Yeah, that's a thought.
Best match of the night so far. What?
Yeah.
Best match of the night so far. Exceptional selling, good story throughout, some stiff shots, etc. Excellent match, better than Mania. I will agree that it was better than Mania because Logan Paul was not there, but it was a nothing match. This was a filler.
I see why Josh again would like it though, because these two always do lay it in when they wrestle each other, injury notwithstanding. And of course, that injury was not going to stop Kevin Owens from laying it in to Sami Zayn. They both like each other. They both beat the piss out of each other. And for people who like their brand of wrestling, which is very popular and still has some sound psychology to it, I could see why he'd like this match. I get it.
Agreed.
So we got 2 to go, and God, I just don't know about this one, folks. This match could have been so much, and it ended up being. It's Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair for the Raw Women's title. Why don't you start?
I appreciate that they finally got these two women back in the ring with each other because they have good chemistry. And
yes.
This is a matchup that is legitimately exciting for me in the women's division that doesn't have many matchups that excites me.
True.
But this match never really got going.
Nope.
It was, at best, mediocre. I don't think it was their fault, but there was just something off the whole time they were wrestling with each other. I couldn't tell you what it is, but they were just off.
Here's my controversial statement here. This match should not have been on this card. This match should only have been done one-on-one at any event no greater or no less greater than, because that makes sense, than SummerSlam.
So this is a Big Four strictly only
This is
match.
a Big Four strictly only match. I would not put this match on Hell in a Cell when it was easily the best received match of pretty much the entirety of WrestleMania 36, both nights. It was what was really regarded as the big money match for the women, which there really hadn't been one of for quite some time since Becky Lynch left. It was already highly anticipated when these two would confront each other. You already ruined their interaction by having a triple threat with Asuka in it. So, but the one-on-one match, that I could forgive. But the one-on-one match, this match had the gravitas and merit to where you actually might have been able to sell some tickets with these two facing each other. That's the kind of dynamic they have. That's the kind of matchup they would have. But on this show,
you had the ability to take this match and have it main event a pay-per-view of the magnitude of SummerSlam.
I could totally
that's
see.
Very rare, especially for the women.
Yeah, I could totally see these two having that dynamic. However, this match, there is nothing defined about this match. Charlotte is a heel. Rhea Ripley is a heel, a babyface. We're not sure because there's no mark of who's mad at who and for what, and they're got a big pull apart. You know, they had the big fight that was supposed to be the big deal that they only say for people like Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns or one of the, they did the big pull apart, which I can understand. But the intensity and the meaning behind this match is lost on a match that has on a show that has 2 Hell in a Cell matches, 3 women's matches on it all night, and people like Rollins and Cesaro and Owens and Kimmy and Sami Zayn going on right before it. There's just nothing that is conducive to these women's situation by having this match at this point on this show.
Right, and let's get into something that I actually thought about when I was watching this match. This is the first match where I could criticize the talent because I could tell that they were not working crisp. Especially Charlotte, she was not tight in this match. There were things she was doing that just felt off.
Yeah, call me crazy, but since her return, she has not been the Charlotte of old as far as the all-around worker that she once was.
Right. I think part of it is that she has toned down. She's definitely skinnier. She's more built, but I think that's kind of limiting her in a way.
Yeah. There's definitely, you're right, there's something up. I'm not saying that it's necessarily bad, because these two do have good chemistry, but it's just, I don't know. It just, to me, this match just did not have any pace at all. It was
right,
just...
It had a hot start, which was
unnecessary.
Like the second or third hot start of the night, depending on how you feel about Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. I will give them credit because it was a creative hot start with Charlotte taking the title while they were doing the title intro and then hitting Rhea Ripley.
Yes, I did like that. That was creative.
But it just didn't keep up that tempo. It didn't feel like they were keeping it up.
No, and it wasn't even them keeping it up and slowing it back down. It was just, all right, this is the sequence, cover. All right, this is the sequence, cover. All right, this is the sequence, cover. It didn't have any pace to it at all. And it was just surprising.
Did it feel too choreographed? Like it was just like, do this sequence, then move on to the next sequence. Do these moves, then go on to the next move.
Yeah,
and storytelling.
It was just surprisingly bereft of what I expect the work to be, and not work as in the moves. For those of you who are not versed, I mean the work is in how the body language is, how they read and respond to each other inside the ring, the selling, letting things register. It just wasn't there. I don't know. It didn't do it for me. It
lacks the Bayley psychology.
Yeah.
Because the reason why we praise Bayley is that when she does her matches, she does it in a way that the wrestler would think and how a wrestler would act in this situation. Not that Rhea Ripley isn't bad, but she kind of underwhelms me a bit. I don't know what it is, but she just underwhelms me. And Charlotte, while she's very good, she still does things that kind of pisses me off. Like, I know her natural selection looked better here than it has in the past. Maybe because she isn't doing it on 2 people.
Yeah.
But I still hate her moonsault.
Who doesn't? I love that they did that in the pre-package. They showed that moonsault from WrestleMania Backlash. I'm like, really? Of all the moves you're going to show that crap-ass moonsault?
Yeah.
It's just...
And then this DQ finish.
Remind me who the babyface is in this match.
It's supposedly Rhea Ripley.
What has Rhea Ripley done to be the babyface in this after being a heel to beat Asuka and then being the neutral one of the 3 when Charlotte came back, and then now is supposed to be the babyface, although she's done nothing to turn, and then she does this heel disqualification finish.
And here's what they did on Raw, okay? So Rhea Ripley comes out to 5-time NWA World Champion Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville, and let's get this into a second thing. And Rhea Ripley is asked why she did the DQ, and Rhea Ripley says, Charlotte does it all the time, so why can't I do it?
That's not a good excuse. That is not a good excuse. That's lazy.
Yes. So Sonya Deville rewards Charlotte with another match at Money in the Bank, the next pay-per-view.
Oh, come on.
So it's going to be these 2 again at Money in the Bank.
And then they're going to do it again at SummerSlam. This is like the opposite of what I was saying about Bayley and Bianca Bel-Air. You have two women who are so over the top as far as what their abilities are and what their expectations are. They have one match. That match was so good that you have a highly anticipated second, and now you're doing 3 matches to build up to that match. And this is the time where you wait and you only have the one match later on, and it just... They've got the women's division so backwards, and it just... This was so annoying.
This women's division needs a shot in the arm. I'm not even necessarily sure if Becky is the answer. The shot in the arm they need is just someone to come in and make sense of everything. Because right now, the Raw women's title scene, it's Rhea and Charlotte, and they're the only two. But goddamn, they just need to come with someone who knows how to book correctly, because this is just awful.
Well, that's... You may be asking...
You're taking a money match, and you're taking all the money out of the match.
Yeah, it's... Well, we're asking an awful lot of WWE to just get one halfway decent booker, because they... With the zombies involved and the hypnosis, I think we're a long ways away from seeing that. But would you like to hear what Josh Geddon had to say?
I suppose.
Wonder how long it will be until Rhea Ripley's name is shortened down to Ripley. Oh, dear Christ. Please, do not do that, WWE.
Josh, again, don't give them any ideas.
Do not do that. For God's sake, do not do that. Also, yay, another women's title match with Charlotte. That noise you're hearing is me yawning. Again, this match should not have been on this pay-per-view. Okay, not every match needs a hot start. Less is more, WWE. Yeah, what a surprise. Hot starts. And I don't even think to count WWE for their hot starts, because they're not as synonymous with it as AEW is, but maybe we ought to.
Next show.
Here, next show, maybe we ought to count for a lockup counter. Good Lord. Charlotte working the legs? Wow, look how surprised I am. Just ignore the gun in my mouth. Means nothing. It's just a water gun that I filled with monsters. So don't worry, folks. Just a water gun with monster.
Yep.
Credit where credit is due. The bump Charlotte took on Rhea's missile drop kick was perfect. That did look good.
Again, these girls know how to do technical stuff very well, and that drop kick by Rhea Ripley was good.
Yep.
But this match just was
not
metering in the middle.
Yeah. Again, credit where it's due. Charlotte did the Uranagi. Good God, it's a lot of vowels. Backbreaker, and it didn't look terrible. Still, you've had more misses than hits with that move, so retiring it and the alleged moonsault would be ideal. Agreed. Speaking of moonsaults, the double moonsault was impressive, but it didn't look painful at all. Agreed.
I know, Charlotte does the moonsault from the top rope, and Rhea Ripley dodges it, so Charlotte does a second, smaller one that looks like she barely hit Rhea Ripley.
Yep. Because,
Like, it was impressive to do, but I'm just like, you're doing too many flips now.
Just, yeah. Wouldn't be a WWE pay-per-view without a DQ in at least one match. I mean, I figured that they would want to extend the feud to SummerSlam with a crowd, but still lame. Victim of an ironically uncreative creative team. Decent match, lame finish. Moving on.
At least the next pay-per-view Money in the Bank is going to have fans in attendance, so it's going to be better.
Which means that we're not getting fucking Otis randomly, mistakenly catching a belt after 2 people were thrown off Titan Tower.
2 people died.
And we're back next week.
Tower.
Yeah, so, we really shouldn't have been surprised with the zombies. WWE's been killing off and reviving their talent for over a year now.
Do we blame the Undertaker for retiring?
Oh, God. Oh, don't bring that back up. I'm going to get depressed. It's main event time.
The Undertaker saw what was happening. I'm like, I'm not doing that.
Oh, God. Poor Taker. And speaking of this main event, of people in poor situations, it's Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre for the WWE title in a Hell in a Cell, and the second that this went on last, we all knew who was not going to win.
Right, because it was his last chance. If Drew McIntyre loses, he doesn't get another shot at the WWE title as long as last year's champion.
And Drew McIntyre does not win in the main event. That is just a fact.
Well, hold on.
Except WrestleMania 36 when he won the belt.
One time.
Now, one time.
Before before we get through this, let's say this, okay? Roman Reigns versus Rey Mysterio. I'm kind of glad it wasn't on the show because those two were the main event because
Yes.
Roman Reigns is Roman Reigns.
Yes.
So I'm kind of happy Bobby got this spot and the main event.
True.
As he should because
Agreed.
he's WWE champion.
Agreed. Both of them deserve it.
And this match was really, really damn good because of the workers involved. I mean, you knew it was going to be good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. These guys, of course, this was still a little... We already had a cell match earlier in the night. So it immediately took just a little bit of the shimmer off this, but these two are so good that they at least had a different kind of cell match.
Yeah, this was definitely more intense, which it should be because it's two bigger, stronger men. This start with the two of them can't be separated by the referee. They're not even throwing blows at each other. They're just inches away from each other, and the referee trying to get in the middle of those two as the ring intros were happening.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Oh, yeah. And my big complaint is that they immediately got to weapons. And I just liked, of course, with Bayley and Bel-Air, they kind of brought the weapons in immediately and then slow burnt to them. And I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of that here because we kind of went right into the weapons. But between these two, under the circumstances, this is a feud that actually kind of deserved a sell. So you could let it go for the sake of these two wanting to beat the absolute piss out of each other.
The structure of this match, though, definitely was different because they spent more time outside of the ring than inside of the ring.
Yeah.
It's not a knock, but it was a little bit weird that they spent most of their time outside and fighting outside the ring.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And there was some really nasty moves. These two certainly know how to give suplexes because we got quite a lot of them over this night. Between
suplexes were good. I enjoyed a lot of Drew McIntyre's punishment of Bobby Lashley. Bobby took a lot of bumps in this show, surprisingly.
He did. And then there was that moment when Bobby Lashley had the kendo stick and I think trapped Drew. And
what it was is that he came. Not Kane. MVP. I don't know why I said that. MVP gets his cane, puts it in between the cage so that Bobby Lashley can trap Drew.
Yep.
And then Drew does the double middle finger.
Yes, he did do those middle fingers, which lasted, but then he absolutely beat the tar out of Drew while he was sitting there.
Exactly.
Which is actually, it was just funny to me that they did a callback to that kind of move, especially because our match of the week, the week prior to that, as in our go-home show, was the New Day and Usos match, where they did a similar thing. So it was nice to see that kind of make its return there, but in a different way, and in a better way.
In a different way because it was outside interference from MVP.
Right.
That's how you get a manager who's outside the Hell in a Cell involved.
Yep. I will never forget, speaking of managers on the outside getting involved, when Paul Heyman tried to interfere in Brock Lesnar's match, the first one in 2002 with The Undertaker, and Biker Taker just took Paul Heyman's tie and just slammed him into the cage like 9 times with his tie. And you just see his face just squish into the cage. And he got juice, and it was hysterically funny.
And speaking of juice, Bobby Lashley gets cut on his shoulder and it starts bleeding. And Drew McIntyre's back. My God.
That was brutal. I mean, they really made sure that he got what he got. But here's the thing, right? They hung him up to do that spot. Right? They hung him up with the cuffs and all that and blah, blah, blah. And they got that. Why would you, in that situation, release him from that spot? Because you've got him right where you want him.
No.
Psychologically speaking, because you would, if you're trying to just completely punish the shit out of him, why would you release him from that to make, to add more punishment other than going to another spot?
Well, you don't remember the spot then, because what happened was that Drew McIntyre broke out of the Candlestick prison and beat up Bobby Lashley with adrenaline.
No, I'm talking later on when he actually got up on the actual ring post. Not during not when he was isolated by the cage, when he's actually on the ring post and they were just laying the kendo sticks into him.
Again, that was an adrenaline shot. But I don't know. There were different parts of this match that were kind of weird, and then there were parts of this match that would make sense. For example, Drew McIntyre and Bobby are in the ring with a chair, and the ref takes a chair shot, and Drew gets the cover, but because the referee's down, he would have gotten a 3 count after hitting a Claymore kick. but the referee from the outside has to open the cell door. So Drew does another move to Bobby, and the new referee counts, and MVP pulls the referee out of the ring because the cell door is open.
Cell's open.
He can go inside.
And then,
That's how they...
and then we get once again another direct steal out of the National Wrestling League's playbook, as the cell door closes behind MVP and he can no longer get out.
As MVP is celebrating the fact that he has stopped Drew McIntyre from winning the match, he goes to turn out and leave the cell, only to see that the referee outside has closed the door, and he goes to the door and goes, "Let me out, let me out." Drew turns around, gets in front of MVP, takes his head, and starts bashing it against the cell.
And how great it would have been if we could have gotten just a wee bit of juice right there from MVP for that little bit of comeuppance, but it's okay. I know I'm asking for a lot, but
Well, apparently they have to steal every single gimmick and spot I come up with.
that's what they do. That's what WWE does. And so then we get this finish.
The table spot. We have to talk about the table spot.
The table spot is getting to the finish because it was very close to it. So Drew's in a hurt lock on the outside. And Drew, in his burst of adrenaline, puts them both through a table that they set up eons ago. And it looked great.
Yep.
And it was absolutely terrific. The ref bump they did do was believable in that respect. Talking about the first one when MVP came in, that was a good ref bump. It was the finish. So Drew's going for the Claymore.
You missed the other table spot that I was talking about.
Which table spot were you talking about?
So Bobby's in the ring, Drew's on the ring apron, and Bobby grabs Drew McIntyre's throat for a choke slam.
Oh, yes! I forgot about the choke slam.
The second thing they steal from me from this match.
Naturally.
And they give Bobby Lashley the choke slam through the table.
Yes.
Which, if you noticed, they did it at a weird angle because they were trying to hide the crash pad.
Yes, they did. Which they kind of did and kind of did not.
Because when they come back, you can see Drew, he's laying in the table, but you see some arm come from underneath Hell in a Cell, grab the crash pad, and pull it back in.
Yep. Oops. Way to go, guys. Richest wrestling company in the world. Nothing but professionalism. So,
but God damn it, they stole my fucking finisher for Bobby Lashley
and so
NWL.
They're listening, AB. They're listening. They're listening to ACPW and NWL at the very least. Because this is not the first incident of this happening. And then the finish. Drew's going for a Claymore. MVP, who is incapacitated on the outside, grabs Drew's leg as he's going to hit the Claymore on Bobby. Drew kicks out of it. And as he kicks out of it, Bobby Lashley rolls up Drew and pulls the tights. Roll up 1, 2, 3. And Drew can no longer challenge for the WWE title while Bobby Lashley has it. What did you think of this finish?
It could have been better. Like, this finish in particular soured me because they had protected Drew already twice in this match by showing that he would have won if it were not for a ref bump or MVP getting involved. You didn't have to protect Drew that much. And you could have given Bobby Lashley a more emphatic win if he had done a clothesline, Drew sets forward because he's wobbly, Bobby goes off the ropes and hits a spear for the cover 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. To me, and I made this complaint while we were on, during the live stream. This is a Hell in a Cell. You really want to end a Hell in a Cell with a roll-up? With nobody there to piss people off with it? And because here was my thought. Originally, it's a Hell in a Cell. It's meant to be a feud ender. And there's more stipulations on top of that, which you could argue hat on a hat. But it's just, for what these two were doing and how they were doing it, if you were going to have Bobby retain, just have him retain. Just have MVP, have Claymore break the leg, break MVP, goes to turnaround spear, like you just said, 1, 2, 3. Or don't do the roll-up in the finish of Cesaro and Rollins. Because I started thinking about this roll-up and how it actually would have pissed people off and probably gotten some actual heat. Not only just on the company, but it actually would have gotten some heat on MVP and and Bobby Lashley, because MVP had to cheat regardless to give Bobby Lashley the win, and Bobby had to cheat on top of that. So there was a lot of, I like the cheat to win so Bobby can retain his belt because Drew was going to win it otherwise. I like the idea of this roll-up finish, even if it isn't a sell, given what they were doing. But if we've already seen a roll-up abruptly end a match earlier in the night, then it just looks, the heat does not go on Bobby and MVP, it goes on the booking, where it belongs. And that's my big critique about this. Don't have two roll-ups in the night, one of them on the big feud-ending Hell in a Cell match that you're billing this whole thing on.
And the other thing, too, and this is the part that kind of gets me off, is that now Drew can't challenge Bobby Lashley, right?
Yep.
So what's Drew going to do?
I have to imagine he's got to go to SmackDown, especially since on Raw, he lost to John Morrison.
True.
To enter his Money in the Bank.
True, but here's the thing. This is how you're going to send him off? He's not going to look like a defiant warrior taking one last big move. He's going to lose on a roll-up after losing because of cheating, even though he should have known that MVP was going to get involved.
Yeah, well, you got to remember, Sky, this is WWE, where no one can stay big for any given extended period of time. Nobody was free of that. Braun Strowman was just released. 2 years ago, he was the hottest thing WWE had going for it.
Last year, he was Universal Champion.
Yeah, so it doesn't take much before, once somebody starts getting real good or real popular, WWE's got to nip that shit in the bud before it gets any bigger. And I have no doubt that they're going to do that to Drew McIntyre, no matter how much they revere what he does and what he's done. Drew is inevitably going to be packed back down the card, and eventually when Jinder Mahal comes back, we're going to be seeing mid-card feuds with him and Jinder.
And then Bobby Lashley, you know who his next opponent is, right?
Remind me.
So here's what happened on Raw. Bobby Lashley comes out to celebrate with MVP, right?
Right,
and
right, and we get the
Kingston
cell
comes
match.
Out,
yes.
And Kofi Kingston comes out and is insulted by Bobby Lashley because MVP's been messing with Kofi for weeks now. And Kofi challenges Bobby Lashley to a match at Money in the Bank, and Bobby Lashley accepts. And then they have a Hell in a Cell match with the stipulation that if Bobby Lashley wins, Xavier Woods is banned from ringside with Kofi Kingston for the Money in the Bank match. And try as he might, Xavier Woods is not Bobby Lashley, and Bobby Lashley wins a second Hell in a Cell match in the second day of I can't even say it because it's so stupid.
4 days, 4 cell matches. How many?
And the only reason why they did this is because USA Network got pissed that Fox got a Hell in a Cell match. So they did it just to please USA Network.
And this is, of course, no surprise because we've long said that WWE is just at the mercy of these networks because this is network deals, and these networks are, I'm suspecting that these networks are telling WWE what to do in a lot of respect. Like we were mentioning it on the WrestleMania Backlash show. I swear to you that the only reason that they had that no left, only dead left alive for dying Dave Batista deal, the only reason they did that is that Peacock asked them to.
Well, they also got paid by Peacock $1 million to do that movie promo.
Well, but that's just it. But that was completely influenced by the networks that they're on, and that's what we're going to get, folks. That's a sign of things to come. If they're gonna just kowtow to these networks for whatever they want, then this is what we're gonna end up getting. And this match, I didn't like it as much in the moment, but I've come around on it because there could have been. It's just that once again, these guys are done a disservice by the matchups leading up to it. And the structure and format of how WWE frames their shows hurts these in the long run.
Now, we did mention it, Bobby Lashley versus Kofi Kingston. I'm actually kind of looking forward to that match.
Hey, Kofi's getting another title match. That's all I really care about. After getting screwed over by Brock Lesnar, it's about time Kofi gets a title match.
Plus, it's 2 out of 3 black WWE champions wrestling against each other. That's going to be awesome.
Plus,
yeah.
Plus, Wouldn't it be nice if Kofi had some actual decent music to lead him to the ring? Maybe a new entrance
Read Joshua's notes.
for a title match. It's your turn, sir.
Fine. Whatever. Main event time, you nymphomaniac nincompoops.
Nymphomaniacal.
Nymphomaniac. No, I'm saying nymphomaniac because nymphomaniacal is not a word. Damn it, Joshua.
I think it is though. It's just it's the different part of
it's not.
speech.
It's not a word. Trust me, it's not a word. I promise I'm not trying to make fun of Bayley and Bel-Air, but once again, this feud actually makes sense to have a cell match. Honestly, this show should have only had one cell match. Might as well rename the show "Oh Well in a Cell."
Yeah.
The physicality between these two jacked mofos is on a whole nother level. Holy fuck, that suplex into the cell was nasty. These damn suplexes, Holy shit, air raid crash on the steps. I'm freaking out on this match, bro. This is a fucking cell match. Is that a huge gash on Bobby's shoulder? Jeez, this sure does add to the match. Yes, it does. Ooh, unblurred middle fingers. Nice. That is a believable ref bump right there. Using the table to get out of the hurt lock was awesome. I love that finish. If only there weren't so many roll finishes in WWE, this would have been so much more impactful, but I love the finish regardless.
Well, that was the matchup, and honestly, again, a main event that maybe in another context we probably look. If they only had one cell match on this show, if they had fans, if they had fans, if they had more stuff, I don't know. This could have been so much. So overall, Sky, your final thoughts, and just because Josh again always gives a grade, let's do a grade 2. What do you got?
So this was a show with, again, 5 out of 6 matches that I actually had interest in, and they had screwed up finishes for 5 out of 6 of them. Just lovely.
Yep.
I enjoyed this show for what it was. I actually thought it was better than their most recent outing, Backlash, because they actually had good matches, and there was a progression.
Yes.
Even if the progression of the matches went from good to worse.
True.
Or something like that. I feel like if I watched Alexa Bliss versus Shayna Baszler in the moment, I would have hated the show more. As is, I'm feeling kind of middling towards it. I give it a 6 out of 10. I still think this was a good show regardless. Like, 5 is the ultra neutral meh. 6, in my mind, is a good score. And that's more than what WWE has done recently.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And honestly, I pretty much agree with everything you said. And Josh, again, is probably going to say probably close to the same. Overall, this was a decent show, in my opinion. Only one bad match. Seriously, fuck this Goosebumps wannabe D-list horror shit. And several good matches. A few lame finishes, but nothing too bad. An excellent main event, in my opinion. Overall, I give this show a 6.5 out of 10. The Alexa Bliss bullshit automatically takes off 3 points, and the DQ finish another 0.5, so yeah, 6.5 out of 10. What ladies and more ladies? I wish. I must return to Emerald Isle because I'm very curious about whether or not it's possible for the entire ocean to fuck a person. Later.
Well, I can answer your question. Yes, it did because of my fucking red sunburned skin.
Yes. Well, pain notwithstanding, this show, for what it could have been, the matchups were fine. Most of the wrestling was okay to good, and the stuff that would be egregiously insulting as a wrestling fan that was not format based, a la Alexa Bliss, was minimal. It wasn't eradicated, but it was minimal. So I actually kind of end up agreeing with both of you guys. I think that it's 6.5. You know what? Just for the fun of it, I'm going to say 6.25. Because it's pretty much where I'd put it to. It's not the worst thing they've ever done. It's not the best thing they've ever done. But it could have been
better than what they've been doing.
Better than what it's been. So, and that's sometimes all we can hope for with WWE. But next time, we have got another extraordinarily exciting show. Our first show of July, our second show of the summer. And of course, Skylar, you're going to be there. I'm going to be there. We're going to have a great time. We're going to talk about Barry Windham, as we've figured out we're going to do earlier, along with so much more. So, Sky, thank you very much, as always, for another scintillating pay-per-view review.
Thank you for having me. And if you excuse me, I need to go lotion up my body because I'm fucking red as Brother Love.
Yes, and Brother Love, as we know, used the... No, I can't say that. Thank you all for watching, and we will see you guys, and we will see you right after we come back from this commercial break.